today we got to play at Library Labyrinth. So this game, we actually got to meet the creator at the
One of the creators
at the Dice Tower Cruise. So we did get to play with it and get taught by them. So that was fantastic. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are awesome, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about this game?
Sure. Well, this is a 2022 Kickstarter that is currently running at the moment if you're watching this when we post it. It's got a 1 to 5 player game, average length of 30 to 60 minutes, age 10 and up, designed by Jessica Metheringham and Mill Goebel. We got to meet Mill. Hi, Mill. Art by Ella Royer and Samantha Grieve. It's designed by Descent Games. It's currently on Kickstarter for £29. It's on approximately $39 US. So if you've played games like Forbidden Island or any of the solo, it's a co-op game. So any kind of games like that. It's
so it's kind of
similar in nature.
It's kind of like this is more like a dungeon dive, a light dungeon dive with a little bit. But
it's set in the library. It's not a dungeon theme.
Right. It's set in the library, but you are facing monsters or whatever. So, and you have to get enough strength to be able to tackle these monsters. So it does have a very heavy dungeon dive feel, except it's a library. It could be a library dungeon.
But it's a very light game. It's light.
It's very light. It's very light. So. All right, so now let's talk about quality.
Well, we can't really talk about quality because this is a prototype. This is not the final version. The Kickstarter is for the final version.
Correct.
So we don't really know what the final version will look like. Now, as far as prototypes go, this is a pretty good one. The card stock, it's not great, but it's a decent thickness. But it's it's got. The backs are nicely done. I like the colorful, the vibrance of the colors.
I think there's some upgraded artwork that they could probably do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't got to look at the campaign.
Right now, a lot of the cards have just a placeholder for art as far as shadow. The chest cards that you get, some of them have some very rudimentary art on them. They're pretty basic. Some of them are okay. I mean, there's some nice text ones. I like the ones in text, but the more generic art is a little basic.
So hopefully that will be kind of upgraded.
I think, I don't know if it's placeholder art or if it's the final art. But the tiles actually look pretty nice for...
the tiles are fine. So I don't think it's fair to give it a score because we don't know the final...
I really don't know what the final version looks like.
Right. All right, so the theme is what really drew us to this game because I always felt at home at libraries and bookstores, especially growing up. I was one of those kids that had a book in front of my face walking down the high school halls. And so, and there's a lot of, reminiscing with some old fantastic stories, some classics that are in this. So I really hope that the art will justify some of this theme, that I'm really excited about. And so overall, I think I love this kind of dungeon dive with the library theme. I think that's really, really awesome. You don't get to see that a lot, and it's something that calls to me.
Yeah, and it's designed by an all-female crew, and the game features historic figures from that are all female.
Female characters in classic literature.
So if that's something that's important to you, that's kind of a cool calling out as far as it has a lot of historic women that are important to history and science and the different areas, and important, powerful characters in the books.
Giving a score for theme. So, what is your thoughts? Because we can't really do art, and that's really hard for our theme.
Yeah, that's kind of important to theme. I really don't think we should score anything at this point. It's more of a just letting people know this is out there because it is an interesting theme. I mean, the idea behind it is that you walked into this library, I should say, that was affected by some spell, and it's causing the characters from the books to be pulled out, including some of the monsters that are in these books, and you're having to deal with trying to reshelve them into their book and put them back. So it's an interesting concept and story.
I think, it's a lot of fun. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, so how was the rule book? So this is a rough draft,
again,
right?
Yes, it is definitely a draft. And when we spoke to Mill, she said she was still working out the final rule book. It's a 12-page rule book as of now. And it goes through, it's got some pictures and such, but again, it looks very rudimentary. It's a very early stage, I think.
Yeah.
But it gets the overall explanation of the game. It's not a complex game to learn, and it gets it across pretty well. Again, not going to score anything because we don't have the final version. But
yeah, all right. So let's talk about gameplay. Now, I think the gameplay is pretty solidified, so we can really kind of talk about that. So essentially, you have your characters on the board, and you have a couple of actions. Now, they did have some interesting cheat sheets on here that were actually pretty straightforward. So basically, you can move and capture, move and reshelve, flip, rotate, take a book. So we'll kind of talk about those. So I have 2 actions. No,
you have 3. You have 3 actions per turn.
And so at the beginning of a game, obviously you're going to explore. But as you explore, so I'm going to say I'm going to move here. There is a book. So this one has this symbol on it, so I'm going to take one of the tiles.
That would be a reshelving area. So you can take, if you find a creature that you can
requires
defeat,
purple that you can defeat, you would end up taking it
and you would have a hand starting the game out of 3 different books and 1 treasure that you would get at the beginning of the game. So.
All right, so then I flip over this one. This is also a reshelving space. Okay. Now the thing is you can't move through reshelving spaces until you reshelve. So, all right, so I guess my 3rd action, I'm going to have to explore again. It's another shelving one. Okay, so this is one of the problems that we did, in fact, find out during our playthrough is that there is a possibility when you do randomly do this that you've got 4 shelving units directly in your section. And if you do, you have to restart the game. Oh, thank goodness, we got a monster. So this is your action. So you have a monster. The monster comes up. The strength is on this side here. Again, this is not the final art, but it tells you what you need to conquer it, okay? So this is out here, so that's your first turn. So everything's open because, like, this is a co-op. So I can say, hey, look, I've got enough to destroy it, but he can't do anything else right now. Well, no, he could draw cards. You could just straight up draw cards.
Yeah, on your turn, you have the options of drawing cards. You can draw cards. If you're in the same space, you can swap a card with another player or give a card. So there's actions you can take even if you're limited on what you can do as far as movement. So there's always something you can do as you're going through.
Yeah, draw cards
And at the end of each turn, an action occurs that might change things about the board. So these shelves can move on you. So it's kind of...
Right, because you can rotate. So one of the actions that you can take is rotating. So for example, like right now I can't get to this, and this is something I could immediately take. So like Randy, I say, hey, you know what, I can defeat that. So his second turn might be, okay, well, I'm going to rotate this bookshelf here so that you can get to it as soon as you defeat it. So that's his second action. And then his 3rd action might be to draw another card. Draw another card.
Okay. Why don't I draw a card? That sounds like a good idea.
All right. And so then I will therefore, okay, now I can defeat this. So I'm going to use Soldier Truth and Mary Curie because...
they have the icons you need.
I'm going to discard those cards. So I'm going to move on it. I want purple. I'm going to move on it. I'm going to take these and stack them here with the books. Okay. So that's action 1. And then action 2 would be go to here because it's turned in my location.
When you move, you can move it down a clear path as many spaces as you want. As long as it's lit, you cannot go to one that's flipped over.
All right. So then this ends up, you end up placing it next to the purple icon. This is not supposed to be set up this way because you saw this one. And then this goes away too. Okay. And then you have to get 1 for each color, and that ends the game. Okay. Now, the one thing that we didn't mention and that we didn't do, I forgot, during the different turns, this evil guy will move after each player. So you take the 3 actions, so it actually should have moved a couple times.
And you flip one of the curses on it, and it will tell you which tile. There's a compass in the middle orienting from the north. We put north this way. So you line up the compass, and that would indicate it's
this one gets flipped over. So what happens is, okay. So if it's in the dark, it lights up, and then it get exposed. Now, the one thing I do caveat is if there's too many monsters on the board, the game will automatically end.
And for the wrong way. It goes, you lose if there's too many monsters. You overrun.
You get overrun in the library, and so you want to be careful with this. Also, if the space that's triggered is like, so say because I defeated this monster, and say if that triggers, then I put a new monster on there. So that can be kind of difficult, but it can also happen with these library cards is or the shelving spaces, it can repopulate the shelving spaces too. Now, in this case, if like this one got triggered again, it would just flip over. So you could end up losing pieces of your board back into the hiding that you're going to have to reflip, at some point. So basically, if it's an action tile, it will be refilled again, and then if it's blank, it will be flipped back over.
If you were on the tile at the time, instead of it flipping, it's going to rotate the tile 90 degrees.
Correct.
Which could cause you to be blocked off or point to a different direction.
Right, which then you're going to have to return yourself or come up with plan B. Mm-hmm. So there's some cool things that's up with that. And that's pretty much the basis of the game. We kind of covered everything. Yep.
So the game can end if the deck runs out of cards. If there's more than 5 terrors on the grid at the same time, and then in those cases, the library gets overrun and you've lost the game.
Which we ended up doing the first time. The first time we ended up losing just because of the way the tiles landed. Mm-hmm. And kind of understanding the game a little bit. So we did get overrun the first time around, and the second time around, me knowing how to play, it was significantly easier to be able to conquer it. And so, but it helped knowing how to play, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, I thought that was interesting and cool. I kind of like the concepts. I think it was interesting that the tiles move and rotate. It is a magical library, and I think that really came through. For this. The only concern is tile placements. You know, like I said, if you end up with 4 of these, you know, you're going to be forced into having to reset the board, which can be a pain in the butt and not a lot of fun. And so it's kind of heavily driven on tile placement sometimes, I feel like. But other than that, it's a cute little game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's highly portable. It's not a big box. It's, you know, something you could easily carry and stow with you. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in this, check it out. Kickstarter right now. Available.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you guys. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.